We'll see if this works. Okay, we are live. I'll grab everybody in from the other one real quickly. If you are just joining us, give us 1 second. Just had a little technology issue there, but welcome. And I'm going to have Hanisha sit on the other side of me so that it matches where her name is. It'll be like my couch, and she's going to come over like, well, I'm going to introduce her on that front. And let me just see, because we had a couple of people in the other one. Let's see. Sorry. Please join other live. Okay, great. Okay, we got that going on. Here we are. Okay, come on in. Come sit down. We just had the worst experience. We went to get ourselves cupcakes, and there were no cupcakes.
There were no cupcakes.
That's so like sad. The saddest thing. I almost don't know how to physically make myself feel better. Thank goodness Dr. Hanisha Patel is here to talk to us about sex, which should make our bodies feel better. Good segue. That's right. While Hanisha is introducing herself, I am going to be looking down because I'm going to just fix, because I want to share this into the other groups so that everybody can join us. And if you are joining us today, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. Valentine's, Galentine's, Guyentine's, Parententine's, whatever times today is, or just a happy Friday, end of a long weekend, apparently. So that part is good. And if you have never met me before, I'm Ashley Koff, registered dietitian, and I am thrilled to have you join us here at the Better Nutrition Program, where we develop tools and resources, ready-made marketing tools, programs, all for practitioners to help them with their patients so that everybody can work on total nutrition assessment. And yeah, yes. I know. Thanks for the cupcakes, Krista, because WTF. And don't even get us started on who the place is that doesn't have cupcakes. I said it's like, literally was like church being closed on Christmas. Like, I don't understand on that front. Anyway, as I said, I will be looking down. And I just want to remind all of you as well, today is the last day. I'm going to go ahead and put the information in there. But today is actually the last day tomorrow, just kidding. Tomorrow is the last day to join our Be Heart Healthy program. And that is for practitioners and for patients, 21 days, 4 lives, lots of great recipes. I'll be doing personalized nutrition consults with different practitioners. We've got total nutrition included in there. And you know, when it comes to your heart, sex is really good for your heart. So yes. Thank you, my dear. So, and one thing I want to tell you about Hanisha, which is going to show up in the post, is that she's the founder of Mahan Health, MAHAN Health. And that's in the other post, and I'm going to post that now. But if you're looking to get her information, one of the reasons I said that is she has a blog on this topic there. So if you want to get some more information, I'll be sharing that link, and you can go follow her there. So
thank you.
Hello. Yes, go to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm really excited to be here. Like she said, my name is Dr. Hanisha Patel, and I am a naturopathic doctor. If you don't know what naturopathic medicine is, it's essentially the combination or the synergy of the ancient wisdom of nature with the modern sciences and the advances in science that we have today. And so it's really, we bring into together kind of the best of both worlds is the best way I like to put it. And like she said, I have my own practice. It's called Mahan Health. Mahan in Sanskrit translates to great. And to me, it doesn't make sense to have anything but the absolute best when it comes to your health. And that's really where that stemmed from. And really what I'm here to do is to help everyone be able to achieve Mahan or great health themselves. That's like one of my biggest visions and goals. And so I'm so excited to be here today. And especially on Valentine's Day. This is super exciting. And yeah, happy Valentine's Day to all of you. I honestly just love celebrating love. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Whatever it is, just celebrating love of all sorts.
Tell them what we're going to do next as our, as part of our whole Valentine's on that part. Yes, go ahead.
So after this, we are actually going to a cacao ceremony. So cacao is a very sacred bean. Cacao beans are very sacred, and they come from mostly the South America region, Central America, South America region. And it used to be actually like more more powerful or more valuable than gold until the Europeans started to have their influence there. But it was just a very powerful herb or bean or food or whatever, whatever it can be considered, because it can be really all of those things. And so we're going to a ritualistic ceremony around cacao. And what's really cool is in my yoga class this morning, she actually gave us some cacao as well. Oh. And so like the theme for today has just been like love and cacao, and I'm loving cacao.
Yeah, and we love that. Hi, Gretchen. And I'm going to say hi to everyone in one foul swoop that is joining us. If you're just joining us, first of all, thank you for skipping over to this section as well, because we had a little technology glitch. You'll see like a weird like picture of me. It's probably because I'm so excited about this topic. So Hanisha, if we start with it, like we know that when our body doesn't feel good, it's really hard to go out into our days and kind of, really do anything, right? So I often focus on digestion as a starting point on that, from that standpoint. And I think like even beyond digestion, really that ability to access like between heart and mind, like so much of, how we feel physically is around just our libido and our energy and all of that. So tell me how and I think you interviewed someone on your podcast. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, I did.
So tell me how you started the conversation on, why sex and our sexual energy is important. Because I feel like sometimes as a practitioner, that's a really hard thing to like, just say to someone like, hey, are you having sex? Does it feel good? So I'm curious how we dive into that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a difficult topic to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
It's still very taboo. I honestly am slightly, still feel a little weird talking about it sometimes. Yeah. Like I'm just thinking, I really hope my mom's not watching this.
Hi, Hanisha's mom. Great to meet you. Your daughter's helping a lot of us. Thank you. Yeah.
but it really is, whenever we talk about like health and our well-being in general, if our sexual health is not in place, then there's usually some other things that are out of balance. And I love that you address digestion first, because of course all healing begins in your gut.
Yeah.
Right. And that's so much of the conversation too. So I see a lot of women dealing with hormonal imbalances, trying to conceive, things like that. And a lot of times it starts with their gut, right?
Yeah.
Their gut health is out of balance. But a lot of times there's a lot of psychological components to it too. And so like when you say that the heart and mind and that mind and body kind of spirit, or mind, body, and spirit aspect of the whole person, it really plays a factor in all aspects of health, and sexual health is not excluded by any means.
Yeah. I love that. I was thinking about Valentine's Day, and I just wanted to like get into that whole like sexy feeling and like call my boyfriend and be like, hey, hey baby. And dude, I'm getting my period today, and I'm like, I feel bloated and gassy, and I'm like, the least thing that I want, like, I'm super happy to drink cacao because it's super rich in magnesium, and I'm like, oh yeah, baby, like, that's gonna be like, that part is gonna be great. So I guess one of the things, but like, I know my cycle is normal, and just because it happens to coincide with Valentine's Day doesn't mean that that's an issue, but when we think about our sexuality and our connection, or not our sexuality, but our sexual connection with someone, so if I can just like how unsexy I feel today, we'll start with that. Like if was feeling that way on a consistent basis, right, I can really appreciate that part. So what do you recommend? So let's start with, how do we have the talk with our patients about sex? Yeah,
I mean sometimes it's just going after it. I feel like just doing it. Be like, how's your sex drive, right? And how's your relationship with your partner? I think that's a really important question to ask, because a lot of times, I think sometimes as practitioners, we assume like, oh, okay, they have a husband, sure, it's fine, right? But they may not have a great relationship with their husband, or vice versa, right? I've worked with a male patient as well, and his libido was off. He had lower testosterone levels, and he's been having issues with his wife. And, and so I'm like, okay, so there's multiple different factors, right? So just like maybe even starting with like, how's your relationship? And then going into like, what's your sex drive? Like, are you... And sex drive, I talk about this a little bit in our podcast that I interviewed Dr. Leah Gordon on. There's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. There are some people who just naturally have higher sex drives, and then some people who have lower sex drives. And it's really about figuring out, like, would you like to have more sex?
Yes.
But for some reason you don't want to?
Yes.
Or do you feel pressured from your partner to have more sex? What is really leading to that? So yeah, I kind of think that that's where I start. Like I start with the relationship and then just kind of dive right in. Yeah.
And I will say, hey Gretchen, yeah, it's like on an island with my dog. Oh, that's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
I will tell you, I really struggled with having this conversation with my patients because also, especially when I was a younger woman and I had a lot of older male patients, not old, but just like, hey, I'm 20 something and my patients were like 45 and 50 and it could have felt awkward on both of our ends. So one of the things that we actually incorporated into our heart health evaluation is actually questions. Are you having sex? There's also an editable notes section if you have our practitioner version where they can say, yes, with myself, or like not as often as I'd like to, or, some of those pieces. Do you feel lonely? Do you, some of those parts, because it is so important. So if you have difficulty, like I highly recommend, you don't have to use our evaluations, very good for a lot of reasons. You don't have to use that, but you may want to have a form that like actually asks those questions. So that like you can use that as a starter. We are now on the sex section. So I'm now going to ask you, some questions on that part. And I think one of the other resources I want to share with people is I have someone that I have, she's really inspired me and I've taken her courses, but her name is Allison Armstrong. And she, I was telling you about her course, Understanding Men. And she was interviewed on a podcast not too long ago about sex. And I actually shared it with my boyfriend. He's now shared it with a bunch of his male friends. And regardless of if their partners are male or female, one of the things that she talks a lot about is you really have to understand that men and women perceive sex totally different. Mm-hmm. So as healthcare practitioners, I love that you were saying like, I need to know, like, are you having sex as much as you would like?
Right.
Because the frequency of sex may be like, I may be really great to have sex like once a week and be like, yeah, we're killing it. And my boyfriend might be like, I'd really like it once an hour, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, that's great. So go do that yourself, right? So actually to that point, when we are talking about orgasm, which I think is like one of the reasons that we're talking about sex is that orgasm, I'll actually describe what happens physiologically with an orgasm. Like, you don't have to go into great detail, but like kind of why it's good for us. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it allows us to, every time we orgasm, there's like a whole flow of hormones that go through our bodies. Yeah. And before I actually get into that, I do want to mention that it's very fascinating. I wrote about this in my blog post that only about 65% of women in heterosexual relationships experience orgasms.
Right.
And about
from sex, right?
Sex.
Yes, from vaginal sex.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And
with
so
their partner.
With their partner, right? And so it's very, very fascinating. Whereas like it's like 95% of men will, and in heterosexual relationships, right? And so that's fascinating. So there's like a whole component to that as well, and like actually being able to achieve an orgasm, right? But whenever you actually do experience that orgasm, and there's again different levels. Women experience different things. Like some women rarely to never actually experience like a vaginal orgasm, and sometimes it's more clitoral.
Yeah.
Right? I think I read this thing, it was about getting clitorate.
Yeah.
So like becoming more...
Time to, and I'm not looking at you, I'm going to look ahead because we got to get clitorate. Like that's apparently the news. Yes.
Exactly.
That's
getting
right.
clitorate, and understanding your body more. But yeah, whenever you experience this, you have this rush of dopamine and oxytocin. Oxytocin is our love hormone. Dopamine is kind of like that feel good. Also, we experience that by eating chocolate.
If we were having cupcakes,
we would be having that dopamine rush too.
Yeah, totally.
So it's okay. We'll get the cookie.
Yes. Yeah.
but yeah. So we have these like amazing reactions, and they're very bonding. So like the oxytocin, the love hormone, is very bonding, and that's why you feel this sort of connection with a partner when you're experiencing that. And
that's also one of the challenges why women, when we can feel very connected to a man because we've had sex, and if we've had an orgasm with them, even if we're not really connected to them for other reasons, and so it can feel harder maybe if it doesn't work out or it was, a shorter, relationship or something like that. And so that's one of the things that, gosh, I wish somebody would have told me in my early 20s about that part as well.
Definitely.
And I think one of the things about the orgasm is actually that, going back to chocolate, because of course it's Valentine's Day, and obviously the two of us we're just always going to talk about chocolate. But that magnesium, that muscle relaxation that you experience, and that degree of relaxation, that relaxation is what you are feeling after an orgasm. And I think one of the things to explain to, it tends to follow, at least for me, it has followed with a lot of my patients, where I see a real cascade of success or an absence of success when we're seeing somebody whose body is constantly stressed out and contracted. I was also reading about how for women, one of the reasons it's harder for us to orgasm is we are so good at multitasking that we often multitask our sex, which is not what men do. Men are in there and they're like, I'm here and I'm with a woman or a man and I'm going to do this. And that's really all that I'm thinking about. It's why they'll say yes to anything and they are not thinking about what they're saying yes to. And we will be thinking about other things. And so one of the things about foreplay for women is actually about relaxing the body, but also turning off your brain. This is one of the greatest challenges for me. And I've learned over the years things like music or massage or actually focusing on my partner and talking to them for a little bit before, I'm like actually in that space.
Definitely.
So I think the things that we often talk about that are like good for our digestion, breathing, twisting, like doing things like, not multitasking, getting a massage, like listening to music. All of those things are actually really good for foreplay. So I'd like to point that out.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
Yes.
And I think that's so important that you bring that up because that is a really big difference between what turns a woman on or what arouses a woman versus what arouses a man. A man can get aroused very quickly, whereas for women it takes time. So one of the biggest things, like foreplay is so important for women, and foreplay can be things like your man or your partner or whoever like doing the dishes for you, just like cleaning the house or like just sending a text in the middle of the day like, hey, I love you. Hey, you're beautiful and I'm so happy to be with you. Some of those things that like,
oh, baby.
Right?
Yes.
And it's so important for us to have that sort of, he's there. He's there for me. He's here. And then whenever he comes home or like you are finally together, that starts to like having that quality time.
Yes.
That's so important. Like before you go straight into the act of intercourse, actually spending quality time together, that emotional connection, making that happen. It can definitely enhance your experience.
One of my favorite things, so I'm giggling because, so my boyfriend and I were raised differently. That's good. Different families raised differently. And I've been really, I was raised where it was like, you make your bed. And literally my grandmother would make my bed with me in it. Like, it was always like, your bed had to be made. Well, I do love, and I followed, and I've looked for validation later on in life when it's like, successful people make their bed every morning. I make my bed every morning because it was like, you got to make your bed or you're in trouble. But I do make my bed every morning. And my boyfriend typically did not. And Allison Armstrong pointed out just recently, and I would say like, hey, when you're at my house, it would mean a lot if you could make the bed. And it was like, kind of pull the covers, and that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, great. And then Allison Armstrong, apparently, when he listened to the podcast, said, foreplay for your woman is like if she comes into the bedroom and the bed's not made, it's like the opposite of foreplay. But if she comes in there, or she happens to walk by the bedroom and the bed is made, it's like, bow, right? Like, here we go. And literally, it's like a game changer. Like, the bed has been made every time. We were even on vacation and the bed was made. And I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, so the moral of this story also is when we talk about the talk, exactly, it's not just about having the conversation with your healthcare practitioner, but also healthcare practitioners. We got to be talking to our patients about how to talk to their partners about sex, right? And about that difference with women, with foreplay, in these pieces. So I want to go a little bit more to the food and the physiology, and I also want to be conscious of time because we got cupcakes to eat and cacao to drink and other things on our Valentine's journey. But one of the things that I want to say is I was just talking about having my period or just feeling like PMS and right before that piece. And so one of the other things that I think is really important is the body has a lot of work to do. And especially for women, if we're feeling like we don't tend to orgasm or we have a more difficulty, or for men, if we're dealing if you're dealing with issues around low sex drive or just not being in the mood. If the body is overwhelmed, and it can be overwhelmed by just having taken in too much at one time, certainly can be overwhelmed by taking in things that don't help it run better, and that may be personal to you, or it may be things that just don't help anybody run better, then that actually means that it's got like a ton of digestive work to do. It's like the connection between the gut and the brain is not in such a happy place. And that can actually really interfere with the quality of sex and like not just the mood, but actually the physiologic ability in that part. So one of the other things, contrary to like what we might have seen in like the Vikings days or those kinds of things of like having this massive, massive meal and then going and having sex, it's like that actually be the opposite of what we want to be thinking about. And it doesn't mean you have to be light or you have to be fasting for a good sex. It just means that, you really do want to have the body. I would think of it like a lot like yoga in the sense that, if you went into a yoga class and you're kind of full, that may actually make the yoga not so yummy, right? Like on that part. But so I think in that way, like you also want to be thinking about the amount that you're taking in. So what I want to ask you is is it true, like, are there foods that are just better for our sex drive?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. And
chocolate.
Chocolate. Chocolate is
right.
naturally. It's just good for everything.
Just good. Yeah. Just close this down and go get chocolate. Real chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah. Real cacao chocolate.
Yeah.
And that's what's important too, because it's like when you're eating not real food, right? So food like substances, like processed foods and things like that. Because they're so inflammatory and they're affecting our digestion, they're affecting our blood flow, right?
Yeah.
And so many people, especially men with heart issues, heart conditions. So you have your Heart Healthy program coming up. So many of them also end up getting erectile dysfunction, right? And a lot of those medications,
statins, erectile dysfunction,
right? It's a very common link, and so it's extremely important to know what you're putting into your body, and the foods that are higher in antioxidants are just going to support your pathways, all of your cells, and like enhance your libido significantly. But then there are certain foods specifically, like maca is great, cacao is also a good one, but then pumpkin seeds are so
I love
good.
Pumpkin seeds. I just made pumpkin seed pesto, kind of delicious. So that could be kind of fun for getting the lovin' on. Okay. I like that. So pumpkin seeds with antioxidant rich, would it be fair to say too, like things that are dark in color? So like maybe like you were just pumpkin seeds, pumpkin, looking at that part. I want to hold the phone for a second in case anyone doesn't know about maca. Do you maybe want to talk about adaptogens and maca?
Yeah, definitely. So maca is an adaptogen, like you said. It's a type of herb, really, and you can find it ground kind of anywhere right now. And it has been shown to help, especially with women, enhancing their libido. It's something that it's not like you take it and you're gonna be like ready to go. It's like a slow, gradual
with
process.
Some chocolate.
Yeah, that's right. And the way that it usually works is by assisting your hormones. It can help with increasing estrogen levels, and usually a lot of times when women hit menopause, your estrogen levels go down, and that's why your sex drive might go down. So maca can help balance that.
So word to wise on that part. If you're hearing us say that maca can help increase estrogen and be healthfully increasing estrogen, if we are dealing with any issues of elevated estrogen or imbalances, work with your practitioner. Don't just start maca-ing it. That's not going to be better. We also have a guide to adaptogens at the Better Nutrition Program that goes through all of these different ones, and also a guide to medicinal mushrooms. So some of my favorites like cordyceps and reishi, great, but you really want to look for good quality ones, because a lot of things these days are promising to help you get your sex on, and then I read the labels and I'm like, they may just be giving you a lot of heavy metals, which by the way is not going to be good for getting your sex on. So I think that's a really important thing to be paying attention to as well on that part. Okay, so I want to open it up. Questions? If this is a difficult topic for you to ask questions about, I highly recommend that you practice asking here, because yes, we're live, but we're just here at the Better Nutrition Program, right? So do you have a question, any questions about sex drive, any foods or medications or interactions, thoughts? Cacao. What are you doing for Valentine's Day? No, I really want to know if you have any questions. If not, we'll keep going. We've got about another 10 to 15 minutes because we're supposed to eat a little bit before our cacao thing. So we want to make sure that we do that so that we're not having it right before, because as we were just talking about, both sex and cacao are apparently not good on a full stomach. So that's that's worth noting. Okay, any questions? We've got the naturopath here. This is a great timing. Okay, if I don't have the questions, I want to talk about one other area. There's several areas around sex that I think are very difficult, but one of the areas, and I'm just going to go for it. You guys know me. I'm not shy. I'm not shy when it comes to talking about poops and smells and all of that stuff. So masturbation. I think we really have to talk about this because no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what your what you want to think of anyone else or any of these other things, whether toys scare you or toys excite you or any of that, it is really hard to help someone else know how to help your body feel good if you don't know how to help your body feel good. And there are a lot of things we can prepare to help our bodies feel good. Like I love to take that magnesium bath, or I love to, all the different things I was just talking about. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that we don't do such a great job of is actually figuring out our physical touch. Right. And I think the movies really screw us over on this one, because I think they just make this assumption that every woman just loves her boobs rubbed, or something like that. So let's talk about physical touch and masturbation.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think you're right on about movies and the media culture. It's so interesting. And even talking about masturbation for women is still so taboo. Mm-hmm. In movies, they still rarely talk about it, whereas for men, it was at least a joke that they would bring up, but now for women, it's not really a thing. So. Yeah. And that is absolutely crucial. Before you can really help others, you need to explore yourself. In terms of all aspects of life, right? And it's what we call physician heal thyself or practitioner heal thyself. And it's so important to get to know what you need and what you like, and then being able to communicate that with your partners too. But being able to love yourself is just so important. But I think what's different is every single woman is different, right? Every woman has different needs. Like you said, some women like toys, some don't but being able to explore that for yourself and then helping someone else being like, hey, it's going to be supportive for you and your sexual health for if you are with someone who you're struggling with, or if you're not, you're going to feel better because you get those same sort of reactions. Yeah. When we talked about you can get an orgasm by yourself. Yes. If you're single, like me.
Or physical touch. You can say to your girlfriend, hey, we just need the physical touch piece. It doesn't have to be. So I think that's one of the issues. First, let's talk about physical touch. And I think that is really critical. And one of the reasons it's critical, and this is actually something parents and doctors should be talking to their younger patients about more often. And I get that it can feel dicey because it's hey, I'm having a sex conversation or, one of those pieces. But what ends up happening is a lot of times younger people love the way they feel when somebody is touching them and may, as a result, be in a relationship or something like that and feel gosh, when I'm going to stay with this because I love that physical touching part, but it isn't necessarily a better relationship. Right. So I think that ability to teach them how you can do, from a touch standpoint, what you can do for yourself and how to explore that.
And like you said, with the physical touch, the oxytocin that we talked about that's released when you experience an orgasm is also released when we just give each other a hug. Yes. Right? It's so powerful. Yeah. So just being able to hug other patients. I hug every single patient that I see, every single person that I see.
And rerun. Yes. Yes, exactly. That's important as well.
Very important.
Yeah. So, and you were saying that every woman is different. So I am a different woman every week of the month. And oftentimes I'm a different woman, if I've been traveling or, if I come back. And so I think one of the other things too, and this goes back to partner communication, but is also to realize how certain things make you feel. So for example, caffeine for me is actually not great as it relates to from a sexual standpoint. Now, why is that? Caffeine dials me up. It gets me super in my head. It's great for me if I want to work on a presentation, but it does not help me come down and allow myself, so I feel it is harder from a physical touch standpoint to actually have a better experience when I've had caffeine. So that's just one thing, that we can think about. There's also a myth, and maybe it's not a myth. for many people, we think that alcohol makes it easier for us to just feel like, oh, it's going to be better and the sex is going to be better and I'm going to
feel calm.
Yeah, you feel calm and that part. So on the one hand, alcohol may reduce inhibition, and that's okay. Like if you realize, hey, I like to have a drink, or ooh, I was really feeling a little bit on edge or that kind of thing, and it reduces inhibition. But reducing inhibition is different than actually helping your body relax and open up to in the way that breathing or in the way that some of the other things that we were talking about can do. And one of the things about alcohol, and also depending on what you mix your alcohol with, is it can do the exact opposite. Right. So we can have, in the case of sugar, or in the case of if there's a stimulant component to it, or if it's something that doesn't sit so well in your belly, like, or keeps your body from digesting as much, it may actually interfere with the actual physical, the positive physical feelings of the sex. You may make the sex happen, but it's not actually helping the experience of the sex.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say from most women that I've spoken to, anytime they drink alcohol, it becomes much more difficult to actually experience the orgasm.
The orgasm, right.
So like they're okay with having sex, and they can get down with it, but actually experiencing the orgasm is usually significantly less.
And the other thing that I want to bring up, and you guys, just a reminder, keep the questions coming if you have them. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep bringing up, and we're going to keep bringing up the different pieces. So the other thing that I don't think gets enough fair play or enough attention as it should is morning sex. So one of the really interesting things, we were just talking about how we're different from a physical standpoint at different times of the month, what's going on in our lives, that kind of thing. One of the things that both personal experience and I talk to my patients about is if you have times when you haven't built up a lot of stuff in your mind, which is, i.e. most of us by about 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock on a Friday, that actually that 7 or 8 a.m. or just even a quickie at 6:30 and then you're out the door, or whatever, that can actually be a really great time to experience. So if you're dealing with, hey, maybe I'm actually not in the mood, or maybe you're like me and I like to go to bed at 9:30 and my boyfriend could stay up till midnight, and we just have different sleep behaviors. Morning for sex is also just, I don't know, but I feel like a rock star the rest of the day, you know what I mean? Or a nooner, on that part. But usually. I feel like, so that's another one to think about. And again, one of the reasons that, and this is just worth pointing out, is that usually we've also digested by that time period too. And so, when we're waking up, I hope that we're not waking up on a full belly. And so I think that that's one of the other reasons that, we don't have a bunch of these stimulants in our cells. We don't have a lot of these other things going on. And so waking up and having sex, highly recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And what's fascinating too for women is that when we have sex with a partner, usually it actually stimulates us a little bit more. Whereas for men, it takes so much energy out of them that they usually want to just go to sleep.
Yeah, like they pass out, and I'm like, that's what happens to me. Is if we have sex at 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, all right, I'll just stay up with you and watch another basketball game because, and suddenly I'm at 12:30 or 1 a.m. going to bed because the sex is actually
Yeah. And so what's fascinating about, what's even more fascinating is when women actually masturbate, that can actually help. Not stimulate. It can actually be a more relaxing, calming.
So there you go.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So a lot of women can actually sleep better if they're masturbating. But having sex with a partner can be more stimulating.
So that's also strategically think about sex versus that other cup of coffee. If it's an option, right? So I think that piece is great. So one of the other things I was reading about in Hanisha's blog was about this idea of not every orgasm for a man needs to be ejaculatory, right? And so one of the pieces is I think we've all, who was it? It was Sting, right? It was the whole idea of the tantric and you don't just going on and on and on and by all means, that sounds phenomenal. Yeah. But I also thought just this on a smaller, maybe more approachable scale is this idea of men having orgasms without the ejaculation part. So take us through what that even means and why there might be a benefit to it.
Definitely. So I call them retention orgasms. I don't really know if there's a technical term for it. But yeah, so in Chinese medicine, they've studied this and they call it the jing that we have within us, and it's like the essence of our being.
Jing.
So that's the jing, and they say that when a man ejaculates, he's releasing a lot of that. So he's just exactly. So he's just expelling all of his jing, all of his energy. And if we think about what sperm really is, it's life force, and that's the idea behind this in Chinese medicine, is that they're literally expelling life force every time. So it's just taking out all of their energy.
That's right.
It's taking everything from them. And in Chinese medicine, they talk about how men should be having sex for 2 reasons. One, to reproduce, of course, because that's when you actually want that life force to come out. And then the other, to take in the yin essence of a woman. And so if we think about the yin and the yang, the balance of the yin and the yang, so the yin is a little bit more of the feminine essence, yang is more of the masculine. And so they want that calming, nurturing essence coming into them. And so the way they can get that is by not ejaculating and still experiencing an orgasm now.
Yes.
And this is something that's so uncommon, or like
raise your hand if you know a man that would even know about a non-ejaculatory, I feel like men might even want to know about that. Not that I'm recommending that's used as a form of birth control, but I feel like if they knew that they could do that, there would be a lot of trying of this. So I think it's just not that well known.
I know, and that's kind of one of my thoughts behind it too. I was like, could you imagine how many unplanned pregnancies could be prevented?
Right.
And how much cleaner it could be,
yes.
right? All the things.
Well, of course it takes 2 women to figure out that men could still have an orgasm. I'm not saying we figured it out, but I'm just contemplating how much better the world could be.
Right.
Where everyone wins.
And what's fascinating is, because they do, and they actually Dave Asprey and Tim Ferriss have talked about this as well, and they talk about how once they started to practice this, because it is you have to do some exercises, it's kind of like Kegel exercises for women.
Okay.
But there's certain exercises that can enhance that effect.
It's a well-kept secret.
It is a
well-kept secret. Yeah.
But they can actually have multiple orgasms like women can.
Wow, men.
Which is so cool.
Everybody please, and you can just forward to this part of this program, please share this with your dudes. Guy friends, men, multiple orgasms. I feel like they would be so much happier.
Much happier.
Yeah.
But it does take a little bit of practice. It does take a little bit of practice.
Kind of good practice.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And I feel like it makes sense, and it would work for people. And so that's really the
I love it. The jing.
Yeah, the jing.
We gotta keep
jing,
our jing, dude.
And they do talk about how every time they have sex without ejaculating, they're actually replenishing their jing. So they're actually just really helping their own essence. Yeah. And so it really is just an overall win-win-win situation.
I wonder how dads would talk to their sons about protecting their jing. There's a lot here to this. So, yes. And, we've been having a lot of conversations about, a man and a woman, or what a man can do and all these other things. Obviously, gender, whatever, right? So what we want you to, the most important thing is that with your practitioner and as practitioners, that we get really comfortable starting to have conversations about how people are feeling in their physical body, what kind of releases they are having, whether they're ejaculatory or non, and they're keeping their jing. What's going on for women, how we feel. Are we just getting touched enough? Do we like the way that we're getting touched? Do we feel like we used to like the way that our body felt when we got touched, and we no longer feel anything, or we no longer like the way that we feel? Because those questions are actually great access points for conversations that are going to lead you to the practitioner, to more of the root cause of what is going on with the patient. And through that process, you can really engage in a different level of care with them on that part. So I want to invite all of you to check out, if you haven't been to Mahan Health on Instagram, or over here on Facebook, and then also the podcast that we mentioned, and the blog are at mahanhealth.com.
It's mahanhealth.com.
.com, right? Okay, so it's a .com. And I also want to say to all of you, happy Valentine's Day. I hope that there are delicious cupcakes in your future. Just kidding. The irony of all this is I don't even really like cupcakes. I just so love this one particular place's gluten-free cupcakes, and the icing is amazing. And we were like, this is what we're going to do to celebrate our Valentine's. And that's not happening. So I'm going to close and pretend like I'm over it and go drink cacao. I hope that you all have an incredible time. And I look forward to seeing you back here. If you are a practitioner and you are not not a member yet of the Better Nutrition Program's provider group, remember that's our private group where we swap stories and help each other out. And as practitioners, we figure out different ways to bring in different assessment tools and different nutrition tools to help our practice and our patients do better. Please join. You can head over to just in Facebook.com / or actually /groups/ and then Better Nutrition Providers, and you just request access. You got to tell me who you are. My team will help us get in there. If you are interested in the Be Heart Healthy program, that is starting on February 19th. Registration ends tomorrow. You grab the package of tools that's listed in the post, and you can join us. If you are a practitioner, you can join and invite some prospects or some clients or some people that work with you, and that would be a fun way to see a program and then get a program that you can run at another point in time, because we shouldn't only be thinking about heart health just because it's February 14th or because it's February, right? We got to think about that all year round. If you're ever in Columbus, Ohio, or if you're looking for a naturopath or you know somebody that is looking for one, definitely have them check out Hanisha Patel ND at Mahan Health. All right, everybody. Have a great one.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.